Good day, folks. This is Greg Judy at Green Pastures Farm. Today, Jackson and I are over here with the bulls, and we've changed up our grazing a little bit on these bulls. We were giving them long, narrow rectangles, like, quarter mile long by 100 feet wide. And it's just been raining, and I'm telling you what, I'm not turning it down because we were dry. We still have ponds that are down 3 to 4 foot. So we're gonna have rain in the forecast now for the next 6 days. So Jackson and I were scratching our heads and doing some planning, and we've come up with a plan. The problem you get into with winter stick stockpile, call it a stick pile, winter stockpile grazing, is that if you get your animals too tight in any area for any length of time, in a wet situation, you can get a little bit of pugging, like right there. And that was part of our rectangle paddocks that went clear back to the road. They were narrow. So what we've done is we've got really nice square paddocks. We've made them bigger, far as wider, and they're square. They're not rectangles anymore. And I'm going to show you what happened yesterday. So we put them on about the same size paddock yesterday. They're on about, there's 64 bulls in there, and they'll go 800 to 900. The bigger ones are probably 12, the macho bulls. And so I'm not dealing with 1,500 pound animals. So these bulls are not getting any hay, at least not today. We are trying to stretch out our stockpile, so we've got some bales over there on that ridge. We've got a few behind us, and we're kind of waiting for it to stop raining. At the end of the rainy season, the rainy period that we're getting, we'll put some hay out on these ridges that we've already grazed to buy more time till spring flush. But look at this. So here's the line right here. We just rolled this up. It's kind of hard to tell in the video, but I can see it distinctly. Well, let me come down here closer. So here's what they've grazed. There's what they haven't grazed. See a little difference there? And this really points, folks, to how quickly the spring grass takes off if you leave some residual coming into late winter. This is March 23rd. So we're literally 17 days. April 10th, I mean, typically we can expect to have 8 to 10 inch green grass by April 10th. Further north you go, it's going to be a little later than that. But we're here in Columbia, 20 miles north of Columbia, Missouri, where the university is. And they call it, we're classified as north central Missouri because we're on the north side of the Missouri River. And it's just sprinkling out here. It's just a beautiful morning. I see some geese down there on that lake. Oh gosh, it's beautiful. But look at this. So where that bull down there is grazing, that's the edge of the paddock. And we went over to that tree over there yesterday. And I want you to tell me if you see any pugging out here. I mean, it's just perfect. And it rained all day yesterday. Not hard, but it just rained enough to get us wet. And I had an all-day farm tour yesterday. A couple really super passionate young fellows from Texas, and they've got a ranch in Oklahoma, and they are having issues. They're got the cattle, the big ones, the 1,600. He said he had a couple over 2,000 pounds cows, and they're bleeding about 10 to 12,000 a month on grain to keep those cows from falling over. Did y'all hear that? 10 to 12,000 a month. Now, you can't do that unless you're selling cattle that have gold hides on them or something. I don't know how you make that work, but it's not working for them, and they're not having any fun. And they told me that, they're just not having any fun. And so we went over a lot of different things yesterday, but when they went home, their heads were spinning. And that's good. I challenged them, and they know they've got to change, and they're gonna change. I mean, these guys are very successful business people. They both, one of them kind of grew up showing cattle, and he's found out that that was not the way to get into the cattle business, with show cattle, because they don't do very well. Now, not out on grass. Now, if you want to feed them grain and get them up and curry them and all that, that's a whole different business. That's called show cattle business. And, there's people that do well at that, and that's fine. But when you're on a beef cattle operation, a commercial beef cattle operation, I would highly recommend not using show cattle seed stock to get your animals going. Those animals are not going to do very well out here, because they're going to be looking for that grain trough. And that was the one thing I told them right at the start of the tour yesterday, was beef cattle do not require grain. They don't require grain. We've come along and started feeding them grain because, according to what you read, after the war was over back in the day, we had all this nitrogen, and what are we going to do with it? Use it to build bombs. And all of a sudden, they put it out on the ground, and grew a lot of grass and grew a lot of corn. And now we got a lot of corn. What are we going to feed it to? Let's try feeding it to them cows over there. And that's where the feedlot industry was born, was all of a sudden we can grow a ton of corn. But it has its drawbacks too. It's hard on the land, it's hard on the animals, it's hard on your pocketbook. I mean, fertilizer right now is over $1,000 a ton. How's that gonna work? So, that was the one thing that they took away from this operation yesterday, was, great, where's all your equipment? I'm like, well, I got that little Toyota truck up there. Got an ATV over that burns about 2 gallons a week. I said, we're not out here on these soft pastures with our tractors. And they got to see how we fed, unrolled the bale to the mob yesterday using an ATV. They were just shocked, and the simplicity of it. That was the one thing that blew them away. People make the cattle business too darn complicated. They start buying all this stuff for their cow herd, and the cow herd doesn't need any of it. And the input people just laugh their ass off all the way to the bank. Sorry about my language there, but they laugh their butt off all the way to the bank with your money and your calf crop. Talked to another couple in Kansas over the weekend, and they did their taxes, and they looked at their feed bill, and they looked at what they sold their calves for, and the lady commented, well, we just gave away our calf crop. Like, yep, certainly did. Again, 14, 1,500 pound cows. I don't know. I guess if you want to give your money away to the feed companies, that's fine. You can go ahead and do that. But I don't know how you're going to make a living, stay on the land, and hand your land off to your kids when you've been losing money your whole life. I get that a lot, folks. There's a lot of people bearing their soul to me. And I'm not naming any names. I'm not going to do that. But I had a young man email me here last week, and he said, my dad and I are on the farm now. He's older, he's wanting to back out. He's handed me the reins, and I looked at the books, and I'm like, Dad, I can't come in here and take this farm over. You're losing money. Well, son, he said, that's just the cattle business. Can you believe that? Son, that's just the cattle business. What are you talking about? That's the cattle business. No, absolutely not. You've been lied to. People have stolen from you. It's because you got the wrong size cows. You don't have any management. You don't have water where you need it. You're not willing to put a fence up. You're not willing to move your animals. Well, if you don't do any of that, you're right. There's no money in the cattle business. Because all you've got is a bunch of pampered animals that you got to feed because you got the wrong size. They're monsters. They're gonna tear your farm up if you put them out there on it in the wintertime. Folks, if I had big cows, they would not be out here. This whole field would look plowed, and I'd lose this lease in 1 year, or heck, 1 month. Guy'd kick me off. It's like, Greg, you turned my farm into a feedlot. These, 900,000 pound animals, it's wet out here. I want you to show me the prints this bull's leaving behind. Look at that. There's no prints. I mean, maybe a 1/4 inch. It's not a foot deep. You got to remember, the cows are walking around on a very small circumference compared to their weight of their body. And, you've got 14, 1,500 pounds on those stilts right there. It's going to look like you punched it. Ask me how I know. I did it. I did it. I've still got a farm over there. You can't hardly drive across it on a four-wheeler. They'll throw you out of the seat. And that was 22 years ago. Yep. It's tough. Oh, I wanted to show you this manure up here. So this is our previous strip. I came in here, I grazed it off, and then I took hay. I unrolled it, and then we spread it out here. Do y'all see any manure piles around here? I don't see any. Well, I guess there's a couple. I'm kidding, folks. There's manure all over. People say, but Greg, you don't use fertilizer. How do you grow grass? What do you mean I don't use fertilizer? I'm using natural fertilizer. The fertilizer companies, they can go fish. I don't need them. So I'm not paying $1,000 a ton for fertilizer when I got this. But this is called management. The animals aren't here anymore. Why would they be up here? They're not. They're down there. Why are they down there? That's where the food is. That's where my manure will be today. My manure and my urine, it'll be down there. You come back over here. Again, we grazed it off and then we unrolled some hay on it. Don't unroll hay on stockpile that you haven't grazed. Don't do that. That's stupid. Because all you're doing is covering up quality stockpile with hay. Let them eat it first. Again, do y'all see any cow pats out here? Yep, I see a few. They're all over. They're all over. I can't wait to see this in June. It's going to be waist high in here. And I didn't have to put down 150 pounds of nitrogen from the fertilizer company to do it. This is natural fertilizer. This is a lot easier for the earthworms to take up. You start putting a lot of ammonium nitrate on your farms, it is a salt, and it literally kills your earthworm population. If you don't believe me, go out there and put a bunch in your yard after a big rain, see what happens. You can have dead earthworms everywhere. So don't be killing your earthworms. They like eating this stuff. And they turn it into earthworm castings. So, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get off of that box. My goodness, got started on that. I just hate to see people tear up their farms and go broke with big cattle and big feed bills, and it's just not needed. You don't need to do it, folks. Don't need to do it. But you gotta be brave enough to back out, because I'm gonna tell you what, you're gonna make a lot of people mad when you stop doing what they're doing. Because they're going to think that, well, he just thinks he's better than us. Well, I want to do better than you all, because you're all going broke. Yep. I want to do better, because I love this life, and I don't want to be taken off of it because my input costs are too high. And that's what's going to happen to a lot of farmers, especially this year. I don't think we've seen inflation yet. Look out, folks. It's coming, and it's going to be pretty breathtaking, I'm afraid. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here. Everyone have a good one, and we'll see you all down the road. Hit that subscribe button on the way out if you would. Thank you.